Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And also to people watching on the camera. The Oberlin Project is proud to facilitate this speaker series. As many of you are probably aware, the Oberlin Project is a collaboration between the City of Oberlin, Oberlin College, and institutional partners working to create a climate-positive community. And one of the ways in which we can achieve this goal is through local foods and sustainable land use practices. So we're glad you've chosen to join us to listen to speakers discuss different aspects of local foods. Each speaker will take 10 to 15 minutes, followed by 10 minutes of question and answer and discussion. So each presentation will last about half an hour. And the first speaker is my friend, Glen Gall. And Glen is a farmer, permaculturalist, and independent climate activist based in Oberlin, Ohio, dealing with the interrelationship between nature, agriculture, and climate change. You can visit him on reverseglobalwarming.org and on Facebook. Glen.
Okay, and thank you. And thank you, John. And this topic is on healthy food, people, farms, and planet. So that begs the question, what does that mean? What are we talking about here? What is healthy food? What are all these things? And how do we know? Will we know them when we see them? Will we be satisfied when we are experiencing this healthy planet with all the healthy food and people in it? So, okay, now it's your turn. Which food is the healthiest there? You got fruits, you got vegetables, you got green, you got red, orange, all kinds of colors. Any ideas? What?
A diverse combination?
Ta-da! Okay, anything else?
I was going to say the most colorful.
Yes. But that's good. That's good because. But how do we even know that diverse combination is really healthy or as healthy as it could be? I think that's a very important question. Has anybody ever asked that question? You just think, oh, broccoli, that's good. Well, how do we know? Today, a lot of the food, most of the food, almost all the food that we get, or maybe not this group, but in the grocery store, for example, is farms, the soil's demineralized, factory farm, may or may not be decent, but we don't know for sure, depending on which particular product you're getting. You got pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Is it grown in healthy soil? Do we know anything about the plant health? Is the plant really healthy that's being grown? And how do we really ultimately measure this or understand what's going on with the food that we have? So I'm not going to quite answer that question because I don't think we're quite there with a consumer point of view on how to really tell. But we're going to get as close as we can get. Okay, how good should it be? Well, first thing that a lot of people think of is with good food is it organic? And then people talk about local and other things too. But I'm going to introduce a couple things. One is bricks, which you may or may not know about, nutrient density, and talk about how diseases and pests relate to plant health. So, okay, bricks meter. I have a bricks meter here. I can pass it around if people want to see it. Somebody's going to have to walk it back, but walk it around. We'll start here. But it's a refractometer. If you look in the one end of it, with the eyepiece, you'll see a scale there. If you hold it to the light, you'll see a scale, something like, oops, sorry, wrong button. This scale here. And it's pointing to, in this case, the Brix reading would be 5. What does that mean? Brix was a vintner back in 150 years ago, and he realized that if he could understand the sugar content of his grapes, he could make better wine more consistently. And so he found out that you could use a refractometer. You could bend light to tell how much sugar was in the grapes. Well, it turns out that sugar content also correlates fairly well with mineral content, protein content, density of food, how healthy is the food. So you can take a Brix meter, I've taken it to grocery stores and farm markets and measured radishes, strawberries, sweet corn, leafy greens, and compared it to this chart and said, hey, how healthy is that? Well, the Brix reading of 5, okay, if that was tomatoes, it wouldn't be too good. It would be in the poor column, or poor to average. But if it was asparagus, it would be almost good there. It would be getting close to good. But so typically, a lot of your bricks is you're going to want to be in the good or excellent column if you want good, healthy food. I would think that's where your proteins, your minerals, your nutrients are coming from. So why are, we can just see something on the shelf and it could be a bricks of 5 or it could be a bricks of 15. And you don't know unless you start getting an eye for it and measuring it and tasting it and correlating all those things together. So nutrient density is sort of another measure. And we saw part of that measure with the bricks. But what scientists have done is measured actually what's in there, what kind of minerals are there, and what kind of proteins and calories and all kinds of things, and make comparisons. There's a couple ways that people have measured nutrient density, and one is nutrients per calorie, but others say nutrients per unit mass, and I'm leaning toward the second. Nutrients per calorie I think works very well for a vegan diet, because what that does is eliminates meats and dairy products that have a lot of fat, and a lot of that's good fat. So I prefer just to know what's in my food and how dense that is. For 100 grams of food, what am I getting? Boy, this liver sure looks pretty darn good, it's got a lot more nutrients in 100 grams than 100 grams of kale, even though the ratio of nutrients to calories for the kale is fairly high. What you get in 100 grams, you got to eat a lot of grams of kale to get what you get out of liver. So be careful know what they mean by nutrient density before you go making your decisions, and judge accordingly. And it gets back to what Ruby mentioned with that first slide. If you get a variety of foods, then you can cover a lot of bases too, because one food isn't going to do everything for you. And here's an example. Fat content. Fat content can be one way you can get your calories, or you can get it from carbohydrates. But it turns out that people that try the fat diet to get their calories tend to lose weight faster than people with the carbohydrate diet. They lose it much less. They don't even lose it at all sometimes. People gain weight on the carbohydrate method of getting calories. And there's reasons for that. Fats there are different kinds of fats, for one thing. Good fats, bad fats, and you can read about that. This is a short presentation, so I can't go into everything here. But typically the carbs burn fast. Glucose, starches, and they tend to add fat. The body is saying, hey, I've got all this extra energy and you're not using it, what am I going to do with it? Well, it does something with it. And fats also turn into fat, and they are absorbed easily by fat cells. But you tend to if you have good fats, you tend to not add a lot of weight. So that's a plus. And the sources of fat, the vegetable ones, the better ones are olive oil, coconut oil, and then with animal fats, if you get grass-fed, 100% grass-fed products, meat and dairy, that's where you tend to get the good fats, the CLAs and omega-3s are very high on those. So, and there are plenty of other sources, but unfortunately I can't go into detail there. So what is good? We talked about organic. Okay, you can have anybody seen organic food that doesn't really look that good? And the farmer will say, oh, look at all these insects in this one. It wasn't sprayed. That's a sign that it should be good for you, right? We're going to challenge that in a minute here. And local. Okay, local, it could be good local, it could be bad local. It may be fresher. It may be, just picked and could benefit you in a lot of ways, but not necessarily. Sustainable, just because something is sustainable, do we have a measure of that? Biodynamic, whatever kind of principles you're using for your growing, there's no real nutrient standard. And that's what I was getting with the hybrids, the nutrient density. But I think this is a critical one too. Can you grow your food without pesticides or herbicides, fungicides, and get good healthy food that way? And unfortunately, I switched presentations and I didn't actually switch it on this computer. The thumb drive's in there.
Oh, dear.
But, oh dear. But I have a nice triangle that shows how this works. And the first level of this of growing food is get enough sugars into the root zone. If you're if your crop is starting off well, you have a nice seed bed. The temperatures are just right when you're planting those seeds. If your moisture is right, if you're getting the timing just right, plus your soil is excellent quality. You know, mothers need to feed colostrum to their babies. My lambs need colostrum right away. They need something special. They need something really good, providing plenty of energy, all the nutrients that are needed right off the bat. Same with the seeds when they germinate. If you can get that, you can get that response from the plant, and it will get a good start. And then it also needs to be able to get the nutrients that will create the second level, which is full proteins. If your plant is producing full proteins, guess what? Sucking insects, larvae, and drawing a blank there, the little snail-like things, the slugs, can't digest full proteins. And full proteins are good for humans. So what's it say when you have to spray because you have these insect problems, or you have to pick the slugs off your plants? It's saying, hey, you don't have complete proteins. So there's a sign that we need to have complete disease resistance. And that includes the lipids that are the next stage that really require good soil and not just feeding nutrients through fertilizers. So if you have good lipids, then you don't get the airborne diseases. And we've had a lot of blights lately that are airborne and that show up later in the season and destroy crops. And those aren't healthy crops. And no matter what you do, no matter what kind of fungicides you put on them, you aren't going to get them to being healthy because they don't have the natural resistance in there. That's a sign. The next step would be the complex chemicals called plant secondary metabolites, phytochemicals, a number of things that are more complex that chewing insects can't even have trouble digesting. So if you get to that level, then basically you have the pest and disease-free plant. And that is the sign, I think, of some of the healthiest vegetable foods that you can get. Keep that in mind. Something to ask your farmer. Something, if you're a farmer or a gardener, to strive for. And there are ways to do that. I can't really go into that at this point, but it's basically making sure you have enough minerals, you do get the timing right, fully your feed with minerals, and I have some really good sources of that. If you want to see me, I may be at the cheese table, or I may be in here watching other presentations after. So basically, this food is medicine. If you look at a DNA molecule, there are like 50-some elements in that DNA molecule, and much of our DNA gets changed every 6 months. How are you going to get those 50-some elements if you aren't eating healthy food? Supplements, okay, but why not food? We can do it with food. There are ways to do it. That's a challenge for all of us, and a challenge for our farmers, who should be concerned about feeding us healthy food. That should be a mission of farmers, is get the healthiest food to the people that you can get. But we're looking at other standards, you know, and those don't always work for us. So we talked about we mentioned healthy farms in the title, so let's imagine a normal farm. How do you picture a normal farm? Well, and how do you compare it to a farm that looks like this? What is this farmer doing? He's got a number of things that you see. You see the color green, and you see different types of vegetation. You see crops, and between the rows of crops, you might have cover crops too. So that's keeping the ground covered. There's very little uncovered ground here. And you also incorporate trees. And my guess is there's plenty of wildlife too. Wildlife can apply fertility to soils, and they can do other services too, control pests and things like that. look at this, water, 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 water. And I'm also guessing that based on the contour plan of this farm, that they are harvesting water as it's coming down slopes, as it's going into valleys. It might be being spread out to the ridges, and so you get an even distribution of water. So you're going to get plenty of help from the water distribution as well. So let's look at our farms and all that they need. They need, obviously, good soil. We talked about covering the ground with perennials, being productive. The healthy food thing turns into productivity. 10 to 20% is all we get out of our crops compared to the genetic potential according to plant breeders and geneticists. So if we're only getting 10 to 20% of our potential and we're worried about getting better genetics, why not worry about starting that seed right, feeding it properly, making sure it's grown at the right time, all those things, and getting that done. And then we can be more productive and get that healthy food. And you can tell where the healthy farm is, right? Anybody not see it? Okay. And here's a great example. This is one of the ways to get fertility is grazing. If you do grazing well, you can increase fertility. You can get taller grasses. You can get deeper soils. If you graze poorly, if you just let your cows out in the pasture and let them be, they're going to slowly overgraze, and the topsoil is not going to get to the levels that you can possibly get by grazing properly. And there, again, no time to go into detail, but I'm happy to discuss that with people. But and some people that do that are called carbon farmers. They're getting more and more topsoil every year. And you can see the difference here between carbon farming and conventional farming. And look at the erosion here too. Look at what's happened in the riparian areas. It's not going to be there much longer. It's going to fall into that creek or stream, and we're going to lose more and more topsoil as time goes on. So, okay, we talk about also a healthy planet is part of the formula here, and we need farming, agriculture, just our way of life, what we're doing has decreased the total productivity of the planet by 10%, roughly. That's a sizable amount, but when you couple with the 25% approximately of the net primary productivity that we have appropriated for human use, that isn't too healthy of ways of doing things, judging by the cornfields and the way we do timber and things like that, that we have lost a lot of land, and we create 50 million acres of desert a year. 150 species are going extinct today, approximately. Nobody knows for sure. But that is in the lifetime of this young fellow here that introduced me, John. We're going to see 1 million to 2 million species go extinct. That's not a way we're not going to make it if we keep doing these things. So a lot of people see three big problems here. One, climate change, biodiversity loss like extinction, and desertification. And I see it as one problem. I see it as a problem mismanagement. We can manage these things. And if we do that well, then we can make a difference. Mismanagement. Africa. This is NASA image of a red dot means a square kilometer of, like, I think it's like 3 fires or more at that time that it was taken. And a yellow dot is like one or two fires. So people are burning their land to create fertility, but it's only temporary fertility. It works for some annual crops. It does not work well for growing a sustainable system at all. And look at how much is happening. And this is a global problem too. It's not just Africa. Africa is the most drastic representation of that. Here are 4 landscapes. I'm sure that this one's the Sonora. I'm pretty sure that this one is in Zimbabwe, and I can't remember. I think these are both African landscapes. But this is before, after poor management, or even after letting it go. Deserts can be created just by letting dry, brittle areas go. And what happens after a few years of management, in some cases more, this has been maybe 20 years in the Sonora Desert. This is in Zimbabwe. Some of these things, I think this one actually, yeah, some of these trees are there, and they aren't that much bigger here. So that's just a short period of time, you can create amazing landscapes. You can heal this planet by understanding what it takes to do good management, making it happen. I mentioned animal impact before. This is a picture of a hoof print. And what happens in that hoof print? Okay, a cow may be planting seeds, maybe getting mulch to go into that area. Maybe that's going to hold water there. That's where look where the green is. It's right there. Including the dung and the urine, all the services that those animals provide are what is able to heal some of those lands that we saw in the previous slide and turn this kind of thing into this. So we have a number of images of the healing that needs to happen, and a lot of that also affects the climate change and the carbon cycle. This is, there's a couple hundred extra gigatons of carbon in the atmosphere, and a couple of those go into the ocean each year as we emit more, and that's causing a lot of problems as it is. But my view is that if we increase the amount of photosynthesis on our planet, even if we don't reduce emissions very much, we can overcome a lot of those problems and actually draw down this 800 gigatons and get it down to 700 or 600, where it would help stabilize our climate. The other part of that is the soil. Creating topsoil is what we're doing here, and with good farming. So this is my picture. More photosynthesis, more carbon in the soil, and that's how we're going to create this healthy planet. And we need land, we need animals, we need good management and good farmers. So that's what I'm here to encourage people to think about. Getting involved in large-scale agriculture. I just saw Joel Selton the other day. That's what he's trying to get people to do, is get out on the farm and get involved, find ways to help farmers out. So these kind of things can be made to happen. There's plenty of vacant land out there too. So we can do these kind of things. Thank you. Okay, that was my TED Talk. Now we can have yeah.
I think we have time for one really quick question.
Okay.
If someone's got a really pressing one.
No one else, because I have a question.
Yeah.
Of the slides of the regenerated African landscapes
Yes.
that you showed,
Yes.
I'm just curious how much of the management takes place in the form of natural succession, and how much of it is human input or control management.
Sure. Okay.
I know that's a hard question to answer,
Sure.
but roughly.
The question is on the slides that had the transformation from this to this.
Yes.
How much of that was natural selection? How much was human management? I think, I don't know a lot of the specifics on these. A couple of these I'm more familiar with than others. But part of that is learning how to get the water right, how to harvest every drop of water. If you're only getting, we get like, going on 40 inches of rain a year average. That's about 1 million gallons per acre per year. And we let most of that run off. We could harvest that. If we have another drought year, what are we going to do? We could be harvesting that. So, and if you only have 8 inches, that's still 200,000 gallons per acre per year. If you use that and are able to let it, if the ground is crusty, it's going to run off. If you impact the ground with animals, that can plant seeds. Sometimes that's all that's needed. Just to let some animals run on it and break the crust. There's a guy that just subsoil plows just down a few inches, and that turns the soil up enough that the grasses just start growing. So to answer your question, well, yeah, some of both. Some human management, some, nature's really going to do the work. But we're the managers here, and that's what we have to do right now. We can't just let it go and hope for the best, because it's not going to work. There's no evidence showing that that's really going to work at all, not even close. So we need to get our management on steroids. And water harvesting, some people have taken, I don't know if there's one of these, I've seen mines where they basically pile up ore and leach it with cyanide or acids that cause the metals to leach out, and then they have to they have a bond with the government that's hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, and they got to get that environmental bond back, they have to green it somehow. And they don't know how to do this. So there are people that actually put seeds, hay, and animals on those sites. And, you know, that season, they have grasses. You know, they've transformed it from something like that to something like that. You know, the grasses at least, you know, a foot and a half worth of grasses in one season in dry environment. So anyway, that's best I can do in a short time, but I'm happy to discuss that with people too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.